Well, Kamala Harris, she's the California senator we were all supposed to think was going to be the next president. Oh, absolutely, she's perfect. She doesn't have any children of her own, but she's got big plans for your children. Harris has proposed a bill that would extend school hours nationally to 6 p.m. Now, the idea is to align the school day with the work day, and that, of course, would make it easier, and this is the key, for parents to serve shareholders by staying late at the office. So while you're plugging numbers into Excel spreadsheets in some soulless glass office building in preparation for the next quarterly report, the state will raise your children. Big business loves that idea. Why wouldn't they? And Kamala Harris is happy to be their representative. But should you like that idea? Rebecca Friedrichs spent 28 years as a teacher in California. She's the author of the great book, Standing Up to Goliath, and she joins us tonight. Rebecca, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Should we like this idea, keeping your kids at school till 6?
Absolutely not. As a 28-year career teacher and a mother, I would say run fast, run away from this. This is being pushed by the teachers' unions, who, by the way, aren't really teachers and aren't really unions. They are radical socialists who are pushing an agenda into our schools off the backs of loving teachers. This is a frightening agenda, and it's dangerous for our kids and our country.
So unpack that a little bit. I'm absolutely willing to believe you. And again, I'm suspicious this is being pushed by someone who doesn't have children, who has a long track record of acting on behalf of incredibly creepy multinational corporations. But tell us why we should be worried about it.
Well, we should look to the past. So let's just take the free lunch program that we have in our schools. It started out being pushed by the unions and their friends for poor children. Well, 28 years ago, I had 2 students in my class on free lunch. Today, almost every single child is on free breakfast and free lunch. So what the unions are trying to do, they're pushing something called community schools. And in these community schools, we're giving children free health care, we're giving them free food, free emotional support, and by the way, free political indoctrination for their parents. Yes. And so if these unions and their friends, their politicians get their way, they would like our schools to be open 24/7. They want to replace the family and families raising their children with our own virtues. They want to replace that with the state, with union-controlled, government-run schools. That's dangerous. That's communism when you think about it.
Wouldn't it just be easier to make it possible for families to raise kids on one income? So maybe parents could raise their own kids if they wanted. A lot of parents say they want that. Why wouldn't politicians work toward that?
Wouldn't that be beautiful? That's what's right for all little children. All the little kids I taught over the years, they wanted to be with their mommies so badly all day long. That would be beautiful. But these politicians, that just proves they're not looking out for the best interests of children or families or teachers like myself. They're looking out for themselves, for power. And they really want to undermine our republic. And they're doing that through our schools, starting as young as preschool and pushing all the way up into the universities. We need to be very concerned about this and politicians like Kamala Harris who would push this sort of idea onto our families.
So helping families raise their own children doesn't make Kamala Harris more powerful, so she's against it. Thank you for summing that. Rebecca, it's great to see you tonight and appreciate your take on that after 28 years in the schools. Well, there is, as you well know, a left-wing takeover of public schools in this country. What you may not know is that it's probably happening in your kid's school. We're going to tell you precisely how, the results of an investigation into that. It's a new curriculum next. Plus, California is, of course, falling apart. An update on how their plan to decriminalize crime is making the state even harder to live in. That investigation, straight ahead. If you don't have kids in school, you might imagine that the worst trends in American education are pretty much confined to our most liberal cities. You know, in Seattle, math is racist. In New York City, gifted and talented programs are oppressive. In Berkeley, God knows what they're doing. The left has abandoned education in favor of naked political propaganda. You know that. But it's comforting to think it's not happening near you or your children. Unfortunately, that's not true. It is happening, probably right down the street from where you are now. An investigation by this show found a radical new curriculum in schools across the country, from Arizona to Iowa. The program is called Deep Equity. It's produced by a for-profit education company called Corwin, which is based in California. Corwin describes Deep Equity as a teacher training program that is, quote, aimed at producing real school improvement for equity and social justice. So how does Deep Equity do that? Well, mainly by attacking the students on the basis of their skin color. According to Deep Equity, America is based on a hierarchy of various oppressions. Men oppress women, Christianity oppresses Islam, English oppresses Spanish, white people oppress everyone. And by the way, if you have a problem with this explanation, you are yourself entrenching oppression. You're part of the problem. According to Corwin, differences in academic performance have nothing to do with culture or effort. They are purely the product of racism. In order to fight that racism, teachers are instructed on different types of, quote, white identity orientations. This is all pseudoscience, you may notice. Many white people, teachers are told by Deep Equity, are defined by their, quote, ignorance and supremacy. Other whites, meanwhile, quote, question the systemic issues that have caused whites to be so much in a superior position. The curriculum offers what it calls a, quote, white allies action agenda. Among the items on that list, quote, acknowledge the reality of white racial privilege, educate other white people, use your privilege to work for racial and social justice. Feel sick yet? According to one teacher we spoke to who has used this curriculum, the Deep Equity curriculum forces teachers to become racial activists. Not that you need to interview anyone to find that out. It's obvious. They're not teaching anything having to do with math or science or English or language. They're teaching racial activism, certain to confuse and wound and divide our kids of all colors. So where exactly is Deep Equity being taught? Well, all over, it turns out. For example, Fauquier County, Virginia, a place that voted for Donald Trump by 25 points in 2016. And yet Deep Equity somehow is now part of that county's teacher training. Most people aren't even aware of it, but it's there. Deep Equity is also used in West Des Moines, Iowa. It's in Chandler, Arizona. We could go on. It may, in fact, be coming to your school district soon, assuming it's not already there. It'll be forced on your kids, and you'll pay for it with your tax dollars. No one will ask you whether you like it or not, and don't bother to complain. Deep Equity orders teachers, and we're quoting now, to explicitly reject and resist any parents who disagree with it. Got it?